Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Glad to have you back for another episode. I saw an awesome number yesterday. It was the last podcast I think was the most we've ever had to one podcast. It was a giant number. So thank you all. I always tell you for the support. It means the world to us and why we do this. So keep listening. Matthew is back in the studio once again with me today. Glad to have you, Matthew.
Back again. We got another great episode for you guys. I'm excited about this one.
Matthew's got like a whole list that he's brought to ask me about.
I get a lot of questions, and you did say beforehand, listen, if you have certain things we want to talk about during this Dental Wealth Podcast, just let us know. Now, reach out to Tower Leadership. If you got ideas, you want, Eric and I to cover a certain topic, we have a lot of different questions that we've answered, and we can definitely answer it during this. So we encourage you to do that.
And then I brought you a topic. I was like, let's talk about this. And you're like, nah,
it's
that's
not
what
in pecking order.
All right, Matthew, what do you got today? I got my lucky quarter. I'm gonna let you go though. Go ahead and pick.
Boom. All right. So the last time we briefly touched on it, and we've touched on it a few times in the Dental Wealth Podcast, is the idea of an exit strategy. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper. And you said, it was like one of the last podcasts we did, you said, all dentists should have an exit strategy. So I just wanted to see if you could elaborate on that. What exactly does that mean? Because we are for keeping a practice instead of selling. So the idea of an exit strategy, just, what can we talk about for that?
Let's see how we can unpack this in a time-consuming manner. All right. So I think when I think about this conversation, I first have to tell you that, and I tell people, one of the reasons I was so successful in dental and when I was helping dental practices to start off this was because I was consulting outside of dental. I always tell people I don't consider myself a dental consultant, but a business consultant. As an MBA and as somebody who studies industry, I say, look, you kind of have to step outside of the industry for a moment. Mm-hmm. When a person goes to start a business, okay, which is a little bit different than dental, but I'll explain how we get back there. Most people should have an exit strategy, which is I'm going to buy this business and I'm going to get it to a certain EBITDA. If you don't know what EBITDA is, it's probably a topic you should know, but that's okay. Don't worry about that just for a second. But in a simple way, I'm just going to give you kind of a simple answer. The accountants that will listen to this will be like, well, that's not technically. Look, basically, what's what you got left over. Yeah. All right, before you start depreciating things and those types of things. So we take EBITDA and we multiply it by some multiple, usually 5 to 7 times. And if you look at, by the way, where dental practices sell, it's usually some multiple of EBITDA. Mm-hmm. It's just that we use collections. And we depreciate collections in dentistry because we assume that when a dental practice is sold, so if you're doing $1 million in revenue, we assume that not all those patients are going to stay when you sell it. Yeah. And because of that, and because there's some, there's probably some reinvestment needed into equipment, into team and things like that, Amen. We depreciate the asset typically by, somewhere around, 25 to 35%. And that's because we know that's going to happen, right? Yeah. And then we take some portion of the AR and we usually discount that. But when you start a business, any business, the thought process should be, what is my exit strategy? So at what number would I sell this business? At what valuation should I sell this business? Where should I be trying to get this business to? Mm-hmm. And that's a very active, right, statement. It's a very active process. Yeah. And to where you're going, look, once I can get $2 million, okay, I'm just using that number. Once I can get $2 million, I'm going to sell it. It doesn't matter if I'm 35. It doesn't matter if I'm 85. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sell this thing when I get $2 million because the $2 million will let me fill in the blank.
Yeah. And I think that's a fair statement. I mean, most of the conversations I have, all doctors normally put either $1 million or $2 million, and they're like, okay, if I can just get it there.
Well, the problem with that is that, but here's the, I would argue the vast majority of my experience would say that they haven't done the math around that number though, right? $1 million only gets you about $4,000 a month of income. Unless you get into the principal, which I'm against doing. So what ends up happening is we don't walk in with the right strategy to start. Because now, why is this important, by the way? Why are we even talking about this? Look, you asked me the question, why is exit strategy important? It never really comes up in dental. Most people start a dental practice, and I've said it on this podcast before, most people look at it as an income stream, not an asset. If they looked at an asset, they wouldn't try and make $180,000 a year of income the day they started a startup. Like, that's not how you create an
Failing
asset,
system.
right? You don't rip all the money out of an asset, so that you can say, well, I'm a doctor, I should have such and such income. Well, most people treat this as an income stream. And then their financial advisor comes back and treats it as an income stream. You know, you're making this much, give me $4,000 a month, and then you can retire at a certain age, blah, 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 blah. And then they convince you to retire, and they say, well, don't worry about it. We won't even count that asset. You know, matter of fact, I've listened to financial advisors tell dentists, like, we won't even count that asset. They call it a bump in retirement. Bullshit. It's like this is your greatest asset you have, not that crap in the stock market. And I'm not trying to downplay the stock market and investing, because I do believe in that, but I'm saying it's not the greatest asset. So what I mean by that is to say exit strategy with business is so vital if you're going to be a great entrepreneur. If you're going to treat it like an income stream, I guess you don't need it. I guess you don't need an exit strategy if you're going to treat it like an income stream. I guess you don't, because ultimately speaking, you take the income, you rip all the cash out of your business. You don't give a damn how much you sell it for. Hopefully it's like a hope, right? I hope I'll get this number someday, and it'll be above my retirement. My financial advisor will be super excited, and their mouth will be watering because I'll cut them a check for $1 million, and hopefully I'll have a fixed income for life, and I can hopefully I can pay for my prescriptions.
Sail off into the sunlight.
Look, I say that stuff tongue in cheek, but I'm kind of serious. Like, one of my biggest, I almost get almost like this thing inside of me that gets frustrated, because I'm like, gosh, you can do so much more. Like, it doesn't make sense. So an exit strategy means that what we do is we say, by the way, because you would get it there a lot quicker. And I think this is where I need to go with this and make sure I say, if you had an exit strategy, now you might not sell it at the exit strategy. Let's be fair. Like, you might look at $2 million at that point and go, well, I've got an amazing income. My assets growing, my net worth's growing, things are great. I was initially going to sell it when I felt that I could get a $2 million check. And this is where... And
they see the power of it. I mean, we have a lot of dentists that come to us. You'll work with them for a certain amount of time, and they're like, okay, I'm 61 years old. I've gotten this practice to a 1.2. I think I have the potential to get it to 1.5. And when I get it there, that's when I want to retire. And we're able to get it to 1.5 in quickly, 6 months. And they're like, I'm not going to get rid of this thing. They see the potential at that point. They're like, once they hit that mark, oftentimes when they're working with us, what can I actually achieve with this, which is a fun topic to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, when you start to realize that you can take this thing from $3 million to $10 million within 12 months, 24 months, you go, wow, okay, hold on. Yeah. Let's not get rid of this thing so fast. I mean, maybe I don't want to do that. And by the way, if you're listening to this and that intimidates you, that number intimidates you, don't be intimidated. Set higher goals. Set higher expectations for yourself. Because you can do a lot. But I would argue that if you had an exit strategy, so let's just say that that's your number, 2 million. And I always say you get what you measure. So if you were measuring getting $2 million check, let's just say net of taxes, I guarantee I could get there real quick. If your goal was not an income stream, if your goal was truly, I need to get a $2 million check, and if that's my goal, I can get you there very quickly. Quit buying new Mercedes, quit buying new boats, quit taking all the available cash out of your business. And maybe you have cash to do both, by the way. Some of you are listening going, well, I want my boat. That's fine. Maybe you have enough cash to do both. But if you don't, I'm just saying that let's create additional capital. Let's work on the EBITDA. Let's focus on getting this business where we need to get it to, so that you can do that. But see, if you have no measurement, if there's no strategy around exit, then even if your time horizon's 30 years, you should still have an exit strategy. You should still say, in 30 years when I sell this thing, I want a check for $15 million, and at $15 million, this is what my life and legacy would look like. And what happens is, here's the sad part. If you sit down with me, I'm going to say, let me show you how to get a $15 million check. If you sit down with a financial advisor, they're going to sit down and say, well, let's see how we can get $1.5 million racked up over the next 30 years, that's why I get so upset, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
no, they're ignoring the
or
asset.
$2 million versus 15 million. It doesn't make sense to me, right? That's why I get so frustrated about this, because I'm like, they're not wealth advisors.
Yeah.
It's eroding wealth. It's the opposite of wealth. Now, by the way, I think you should give your wealth advisor some money. I just think that we should put the practice first, right? By the way, that's one thing I always tell financial advisors. By the way, I do like financial advisors. I sound like I beat them up. It's because it's the ones that drive me nuts, because I'm like, the great wealth advisors know, give the money to Eric first.
Yep.
That's the great financial advisors. The ones that say, give the money to Eric first, he'll grow your business, and when he grows your business, we'll reinvest the capital. See, that's someone you want to work with. The person who says I'm telling you now, if your financial advisor does not tell you to put your money in your business first, fire them. Fire them now. You should have fired them a long time ago. They don't know what they're doing. They're not equipped. As a matter of fact, I just talked to, it's so funny, I was talking to somebody, and I'm going off on a little bit of tangent, but I'm going to go down this road a little bit. So I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, I said, you've outgrown your CPA. And they said, I just hired him in February. And I said, well, you hired somebody you already had outgrown. I'm sorry. You fire them, and a lot of times with advisory relationships, we've outgrown them. And so you got to, sometimes you've outgrown your, here's the worst part. When they know they've outgrown a relationship, but they won't fire that person because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I mean, you must really, really like them a lot to give up your entire future and legacy because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Look, their job is to keep up with you, not the other way around.
And we've seen that time and time again.
Yeah.
I mean, had multiple conversations with doctors that have that issue.
So when we have exit strategy, what we do is we look at our business and we say, I need to hit X amount of EBITDA. If you don't know what EBITDA is, then you're probably getting bad advice for a long period of time. And I'm serious. Like, if you don't know at this point as a business owner what EBITDA is, then you've been getting bad advice for a long period of time. So if you don't know what EBITDA is, I would stop and research EBITDA. And because you need to know what that is. And this isn't an accounting show, so we're not going to break apart EBITDA today. But here's what I will tell you is that if you woke up and you said, this is my strategy, this is my exit, this is when I will sell it, this is how much money I need to make, this is what I will do with that capital, this is why I will do that capital, you would get there literally probably, I'd venture to say at least 10 times faster because of the fact that you would be so focused on what you were trying to get accomplished.
Same thing with goals. It's like, we talked about goals the other day. It's like some people are just like, all right, I'm at $800,000 now. I want to get to 1.2. And they just say that out there and they don't have a strategy behind that. So that kind of preferences me into this question just to put this in layman's terms for the listeners. Okay, if I'm thinking about an exit strategy, what are let's say the 3 most important things I should consider, should be thinking about when I'm developing my exit strategy?
Well, the number one thing that you should be considering is, what are you going to do with the money?
Okay.
Because the reason why I say that is this. Brokers could give a damn less what happens to you once you sell your practice. Look, these are the things I get. One of the reasons I'm in this industry, some people ask me, like, you don't need to be in this industry. Go be in a lot of different industries. Why are you in dental? The reason I'm in dental is because of passion. Because I'm like, man, someone's got to save these guys from the vultures. The vultures are everywhere. Man, there's another transition company that pops up every single day. They could give a damn less. They're there to get their 10% and get the hell out. I'm sorry. Look, if you're a transition guy, listen to this, or a broker, don't be a vulture. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, so many people are like, and then they put on LinkedIn, look, I sold off his practice. Look, I'm not saying people don't want to sell. Look, there are people that want to sell, but I'm telling you, and I'm not discrediting everyone in the industry. I'm saying there's a lot of vultures out there. And if you're a broker, there's a lot of vultures out there. And so I'm not saying there's not legitimate great brokers out there. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who are vultures. And what's happening is they could care less what happens to you once that check happens. They get their 10%. They do not have, these guys are not financially educated. They're not financial advisors. They've never done financial planning. Most of them are probably struggling themselves. So what ends up happening is they sell your practice for $1 million, and you thought, man, it's $1 million, and nobody told you what that looks like. Well, hold on. So I had $1 million dental practice. I was making $300,000 a year. I know that. I just sold it off. I make $4,000 a month, $50,000 a year. That's right.
Yeah.
And no one told you that. And because that person isn't educated in that area, all of a sudden you sold your dental practice, and you're like, but I wouldn't have sold it. And now all of a sudden you sold it to corporate, which is even worse because now you're a slave to them.
Yep.
And now you're in some contract that like you're being pushed into some corporate system that you don't even love. And now you like hate dentistry all of a sudden. You sold it off your practice to basically make a lower income. And you're like, what did I do? And and you're like, I just got sold out of really everything, my legacy, my planning, everything I was creating and building. And what happened? Because this old damn system sold you. The system we have in dental is freaking broke. It's been broken for a long time. It's been driven by financial advisors. It's been driven by brokers. It's been driven by people who do not understand true wealth building. Entrepreneurs do not sell off their practice without an exit strategy and knowing what they're going to do with the capital. I'm getting a little fired up now. I get mad about this because I'm like, look, the damn vultures are putting people into poverty. Poverty from what they can do. Certainly from my standard, I look at it and go, look, it is poverty if you look at the fact that you could have been creating legacy and impact and generational wealth, and you eroded that because some broker decided to get you to sell your practice early, or some corporate DSO decided to get you to convince you to sell it off because they were going to sell you the world.
And they have to end up going back to work. I mean,
and now these people, by the way, are selling out their profession, going, you should sell off your practice too, because they get a $25,000 check. They're so desperate, they're willing to sell the rest of their peers down the road so they can get a $25,000 check to sell their practice off to. I mean, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That literally doctors are going out and getting their peers in a room and cornering them. And I know this is happening. So that they can get a $25,000 commission check because no one told them, don't do it, don't go into the light, don't do it. And and so I'm getting
no one's looking out for them
because I love this profession and I love dental entrepreneurs. And by the way, dental DSOs where a dentist owns multiple locations and grows that, I'm like, all about that. I really am. I support that. I don't know if I love private equity getting involved in dental. I mean, because you get what you measure, and if they're measuring profitability versus patient care, it's completely different. That's a whole nother tangent. But the whole point was exit strategy and me going, hey, look, have an exit strategy. Don't sell off to somebody you don't ethically believe can take care of your patients. Don't sell off to because you believe the highest bidder is somebody who will take your profession down the wrong road. Don't do it. Do you have ethics? I mean, but the problem is you haven't done the planning around it. And if you do the planning around it, you'll see like that doesn't even make sense. Like I need this much money to make this work. And so that wasn't really answering. I'm like, I'm off on a tangent. I get so fired up.
Yes, I mean, that's the most important thing. I
mean, know
what are you
going
to
do
with the money? So for the middle part, and I mean, this is for a young dentist, a middle-aged dentist, an older dentist, is you need to figure out what the exit strategy is like in the next 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, what does it look like?
So you know what you're going to do with the money. What else should they be looking at? So I have a game plan. I know, 10 years, I want to, I'm going to sell this thing for, my extra strategy is I'm going to get $10 million. Okay, so so I know what I'm going to do with the money from there. I'm going to go impact a heck of a lot of people. We love that. If you're going to impact focus, we want to work with you. What else do they do? They got the number down. What are the middle pieces they need to do to line up with their exit strategy?
You got to learn how to invest capital. The problem is if you don't learn how to, the problem is in this industry, outside of myself, and I'm not saying this as some kind of braggadocious way, I'm not that ego driven, but I will say I don't know other people that are teaching you how to invest capital. I'm not saying spend capital. They'll teach you how to spend capital. They'll teach you to buy stuff, but they don't tell you where to invest capital. And so you've got to learn where to invest capital to get there quicker, right? Because ultimately speaking, we have what's called opportunity cost. Decision A and decision B. If decision A gets you 3 times as much return for the same capital, and it does it in half the time, well, then we would say that decision A makes the most sense. Yeah. But if you don't know how to evaluate those decisions, so you don't understand capital investment and management, how in the world are you going to do that? Your accountant doesn't know how to do that. By the way, they never went to school for it. They don't know the first thing about capital investment. As a matter of fact, they'll tell you don't buy anything except it's tax time. So buy a bunch of crap you don't need. Buy it early because we didn't do good tax planning. And then, by the way, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm starting to today I could talk about a lot of conversations. Like I got to keep focused today. I'm like fired up this morning. Yeah, a lot of coffee.
It's the trampoline.
I'm feeling fired up. So, all right, what we were talking about? Okay.
So they have, first thing is, what am I going to do with the money? Second thing is, I need to learn how to do investment in capital. Like, what capital investments do I need to make in order to get there? So what would be like a third thing? So they have those two. Would you say, the third thing could be your resources? Who are you going to utilize to help you get there? What would the third thing be for the exit strategy?
One of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't invest in advisory relationships. I think what ends up happening is that they're so scared to invest in advisory. It's one of the biggest mistakes you can make, is not investing in the right relationships, not being willing to spend the money, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have the advisor. See, here's the thing about advisory relationships. Great advisors know we're great, like we do, and I'm not trying to be, it's just true. I mean, there's a lot of great advisors out there, but you have to be willing to invest in it to get the knowledge. Like the knowledge doesn't fall out of the sky. It's the great stuff's not, it's not just going to hit you in the face. Like you have to seek knowledge, and to become a great entrepreneur, you gotta research, you gotta read, you gotta get a great advisory team, and you've got to invest in yourself and your self-education. I mean, in this book, Financial Evolution, I talk about the fact that 10% of your income needs to go into your own personal education and growth. If you don't understand, like if you picked up this podcast and you don't know, if I lost you on EBITDA, then we've got a long way to go, right? Yeah. And by the way, everyone's at a certain pace. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what that is, don't beat yourself up. It's just to say, look, you got to invest in advisory relationships. You got to invest in the right people with the right decisions. And great advisors cost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. If your advisor is really inexpensive, if your client's got one, if your advisor's got one client, if their business is looking like a slope into decline, I'll tell you a funny story. So let me tell you a story I met. So that's probably 7 years ago. I get a cardiologist who called me up and wanted to work with me. Mm-hmm. And so I meet with this cardiologist. And this cardiologist used to be highly successful. Mm-hmm. And so I see what happened over time. Like this guy went to the point where he was making close to $1 million a year, and then all the way down to where he wasn't taking income, which is when I met him. Yeah. And so I asked him about his CPA. And I said, tell me about your CPA's business. And he said, well, I mean, we used to be really successful in like the early 80s. And then then he's got like one client. It's me, right? And so I'm like, y'all rode the damn ship down together. Like, I mean,
you were sinking at the same time.
You were literally in the same ship going, what do we do? What do we do? And you were taking advice from the guy whose business was crashing at the same time as you. Yep. Like if you look around and your advisor's like pulling up in like an 82 Accord, like you might wonder.
Yeah, something's off here.
Or the person's like, I just started a consulting company tomorrow, or yesterday, the future, I guess. And their background is, you see where I'm going. Look, invest in people who can help you move the needle. Invest in people invest in your own self-education. Have an advisory team that can help you move the needle. Don't start working with some marketing team who read a book yesterday about like an internet marketing and now is all of a sudden the lead expert in the world. Be willing to have a plan in place and don't just do it with a financial advisor. Financial advisor is a piece of that, but they don't understand capital investment. I've said it before, like I'm not beating up on financial advisors. I'm saying like you've got to have a true entrepreneurial game plan. And that entrepreneurial game plan is about having your exit strategy involved in that. And when your exit strategy is encompassed in that, what ends up happening is then we go, look, this is the number that I really am trying to get to. Then we'll have efficiencies in that. And then ultimately speaking, once we hit that number, then you can go, I'm set. This is the number I needed to hit. Anything on top of that is just a bonus. Mm-hmm. And by keeping it an exit, see, the exit strategy is not retirement. That's not the exit strategy. That's the biggest mistake. That's what W-2 workers do. That's an income stream.
Yeah.
Quit letting a financial advisor tell you this is an income stream. It's an asset. And it's one of the greatest assets in the world. And if you learn how to invest, why do you think private equity is pouring into this field?
Yep.
Because it's such a great asset.
Lots of return.
And you think, I mean, private equity has already figured it out, but they're basically knowing dentists won't. And they're allowing brokers and financial advisors to convince them to sell off their practices at record numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about what's in the Shark Tank for a moment. You got financial advisors swimming around, waiting for you to sell that thing off, telling you it's an income stream, and trying to get you to sell it off as quick as possible so they can get their big $1 million check. Mm-hmm. You got the broker swimming in the stream who's saying, "Hey, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it." You got private equity who's coming in and saying, "Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it." Boy, do I got a deal for you. Mm-hmm. And nobody is telling you like what the exit strategy is, where you should be going in, what EBITDA should be looking like, what's the true financial goal, what's the result of you selling this thing off. And that's why I get fired up and I'm saying, look, if your game plan is I hope I die before my money runs out, like you've got bad advisors. Mm-hmm. If someone ever looked at you and said, my goal is that you die before your money runs out, that's like fire them. Like there's no point. Those aren't great advisors. You don't have a good advisory team around you. I'm sorry, you don't. Mm-hmm. You use the bottom of the barrel. You use the guy who just got through his Series 7 exam. And or somebody who's not, look, I mean, I've met some of the best wealth advisors, and the best wealth advisors will tell you flat out, like they would say, go work with Eric first. Mm-hmm. They would, because those are great people who understand. There's great CPAs. There's great CPAs out there who will say, go work with Eric first. Mm-hmm. And then we'll work together. Like I've worked with some really great CPAs. So it's understanding that when we go to an exit strategy, we have to know where we're going. Yep. In business, as in life, we have to know where we're going. How are you going to get there if you don't first of all, if you don't know where you're going, you're just going through day to day. And then people like me build you a roadmap. Mm-hmm. The exit strategy is where you're going. It's your future vision. It's where you're going to take this business. It's why you're taking the business. Then I give you a roadmap to get there quickly. Mm-hmm. And then we have options. And so when I think of exit strategy, I think of like, if your exit strategy is, I just want to just make as much money as possible and as much income and shove as much into my 401k as possible, you've probably got a bad strategy. Yeah. And so, that's when I look at exit strategy and say, look, know where you're going. Mm-hmm. Know why you're doing it. By the way, why 65? Maybe it should be 45. Maybe it should be 55. Maybe it should be 75. I don't know. I mean, like yeah, you're right. I tell people to keep practice all the time. Yep. Because I'm like, look, once you got an executive team and it's running without you and you're not in the dental chair and income's great and assets growing and EBITDA's going up, why are you going to sell this thing off? It doesn't make any sense, right? Mm-hmm. Push the sharks back for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. They're still circling you. You just got to push them back for a little while. And then, guys, I'm joking a little bit about that, but the truth is then you're commanding it. You're looking at the broker going, no, I don't think I'm going to give you 10%. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I know what this thing's valued at. I know it's worth. And if you don't want to, if you're going to charge me 10%, I'll just go find a different broker. Mm-hmm. Well, I can, you know what the EBITDA is on this thing? I'll find somebody all day long. I'll pick up the phone call and make a sale. I don't need you to 10%. You get out of here. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the financial advisor jumps and be like, oh, and they start, they want the check. And you're like, well, let's talk about this. Some of this I might put into the market. Some of it I might not. I got some different things to look at. And so we start looking at basically you being in control. And I think that's the most important. Maybe that's where a good place to leave this podcast is. Yeah. Are you in control? Mm-hmm. Are you in control? Are you in control of your practice truly? Are you in control of your financial destiny? Are you in control of the financial future? Are you in control of financial decision making? Do you really know where you're going? Or are you being steered by a bunch of people that are there for their own self-interest? Or as an entrepreneur, do you truly have a strategy of why you're building your business? The exit strategy is that. Mm-hmm. It's knowing where you're going and why you're going, what the financial result of that is. And you say, that's why I started a business. If you just want an income stream, sell off your practice and go be an associate somewhere. But if you want to truly be an entrepreneur, then you have to have an exit strategy.
Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Guys, thanks for being here today. I mean, I get, podcasts like today, I get a little pumped up this morning. I feel a little pumped up.
Podcast day.
I want to leave it on this note. It's like, we got to leave it at the dramatic cliff fall. Look, here's the thing. Look, I want to leave you with a thought. And it's very important I say this. I sound like I'm against financial advisors on this podcast. I'm not. I think it's important you hear me to say that. I'm against the industry in a lot of ways because I truly believe it's the reason why 95% of doctors retire with less income than they had when they were working. There are great advisors, but you're going to have to search because the vast majority of them have their sales reports. They're trying to be top of the sales in their firm, and they're trying to take care of their families, to be fair to them too. But they truly don't understand business. And you got to have a wealth advisor who understands business. So when they see someone like me, they get happy because they truly want you to be taken care of, and they know it's the best thing. You want accounting professionals and CPAs who truly understand that your business is the greatest asset you have, and it's not about cutting expenses. It's about investing into this business. I'm not against CPAs. I have so many CPAs I work with that are great. I'm against a model. My argument really is against a model that has led dentists down the wrong path for way too long. It's antiquated. It's broken. It doesn't work in today's market. Private equity understands that. It's why they're able to come in. I think that in this market, there's a lot of opportunity. There's probably more opportunity in this market than maybe there ever has been for you to take your practice and do awesome, amazing things. But you need to really, truly recognize, and we need to recognize that the vast majority of education you're being received in this industry, whether from consultants or advisors, is an antiquated system that's leading you down a path where you'll guaranteed to make less money than you were when you were working. And what will ultimately happen is you'll hope that you die before your money runs out. There's a better way to do this. There's a brilliant way to do this. You should want to create legacy. You should want to create impact. You should want to take this business and do awesome, amazing things with it. Your exit strategy should be built about this amazing results that you can do with this business. It's why I get dentists out of the chair, because I'm like, when I get you focused in the right direction, you'd be surprised what you can do with this. And that's the problem. Nobody understands. I feel like the vast majority of people in this marketplace do not understand the true potential of a dental practice. And if they did, if they truly understood what they were asking you to walk away from, they would never ask you to do that. I truly believe in their hearts they wouldn't. Because I think they're good people, but they don't have the knowledge base. And it's so important that you have the knowledge base and understand what this thing can do. So, the exit strategy is about saying, well, let's go build something amazing and great. And we do that, then the great stuff happens. Thanks for listening. See you next time.